Hello, this is the 118th issue of Catch of the Day, available on the Branch Talk YouTube channel. Today we're going to continue reading from Doug Mitchell's book, When the Siege Has Ended, EZ5, The Judgement for the Living. Starting at the top of page 14, thus another part of the harvest parable was being fulfilled. That is, after the sickle, the new message was thrust in at the beginning of the harvest, the separation. The tares were being bound in bundles, as those who formed the different so-called Davidian associations had no biblical mandate to do so, nor living prophetic voice at their heads, then those bundles could be nothing more than gatherings of tares, who were fighting against the unrolling of the scroll that was sent to garner the wheat into the barn. Though some of those initial pretenders faded away, a few of the more forceful among them have remained. M.J. Bingham was one. Until his death, he put himself forward as being the porter, which to him meant that he was the one left in charge, even though he could not show from the Bible, by both types and prophecies, where his work was clearly delineated, though he did attempt to do so. Since his death, his wife has been doing the likewise. On one hand, they have been putting forth new interpretations of scriptures, in addition to those in the rod. Yet on the other hand, they teach that the judgment for the living has not opened yet. What is significant about this is that Brother Houteff said that his message was announcing the coming of the new message when the judgment for the living opens. But he did not allow any room for any other light to come between his announcement of the new message and its actual coming. If the Lord had intended to bring us additional light after the rod message came, but before the judgment for the living opened, he surely would have told Brother Houteff to tell us that, rather than having him tell us that the opening of the judgment for the living was imminent, was about to begin, was almost here. Those descriptive words were used 60+ years ago. Yet many Davidians say that those words are still present truth, and will continue to be such until who knows when. We say that because without the proper application of the 430 years prophecy to mark the actual opening of the judgment of the living, the Davidians are truly a ship without course. Don Adair is another one of the pretenders. He took advantage of the chaos caused by Florence Houteff and her associates to reprint the rod literature and gain a following around himself. In the 1960s, when the court erroneously and unlawfully decided to divide up the second tithe fund among those who had been members prior to 1962, Ben Roden decried the situation and called upon Davidians to refuse to take back that second tithe money that they had given to the Lord for the poor and elderly. Yet Don Adair took his portion, and M.J. Bingham and his wife may have done the same. Both of those men began by walking in the sparks of their own kindling and rejected the branch message, and the fire spread from them to those who they came in contact with as their bundles grew. Therefore, there are many people today who profess to be Davidians because they received the rod literature and studies from them, yet have left their fellowships and have set up their own associations on the same shaky foundations. The irony of this situation is that neither Don Adair nor M.J. Bingham had the legal right to grant fellowship certificates from the True Davidian Association to themselves, let alone anyone else. The whole Davidian world today is based on fraud. That is not to say that there are not many who are studying the rod message who God considers to be Davidians because they are living up to the light of the rod, as the Spirit has convicted them. It's just that they don't have any lawful roots to the original association. Similarly, in the fall of 1956, when the SDA leadership was presented with the same unrolling of the scroll concerning the opening of the judgment for the living and kindred truths, they too burned up because they also rejected the most fundamental principle of the movement. That being that the remnant church is to have within it the testimony of Jesus, the spirit of prophecy. Their rebellion manifested itself in their openly denying the truth of Christ's ongoing ministry and atonement in the heavenly sanctuary, and the work of the Spirit of prophecy in the church when they met with the evangelicals Martin and Barnhouse. At that time, they had already prepared themselves for that fall by rejecting the broad message, and now they had reaped the results of that rebellion by being burned up by the fire of truth. Moreover, they had also set themselves up for that fall when they rejected the 1888 message that put the law in its proper setting in regards to the gospel. Jones and Wagner had come showing that it was not the feast days nor any law that was nailed to the cross, but it was our sins. So when Ben Roden called for the church to return to keeping the Bible feast days in antitype under the new covenant with its new priesthood, the Melchizedek priesthood, the SDA ministry fell backwards and let down the sword of truth wielded in the Protestant Reformation. Something to consider. Take care.